On the phone right now is Bucky Brooks. He works for the NFL Network, former NFL defensive back, host of the Move the Sticks podcast with Daniel Jeremiah. It's available wherever you listen to podcasts. But you know what, Goo? That's on the back burner right now. This Bucky Brooks doesn't know who I am.
Okay.
But I'm going to surprise him here because I used to play pickup basketball at Club One in Oakland, California.
Way back.
And I've seen Bucky's game. And he doesn't know who I am.
Could be get to the cup, Steiny.
He was very solid. Okay. You were very solid, Bucky.
Brooks.
Wow, that was way back. That's a throwback. Club One of my favorite memories of the Bay Area, playing there with all the guys who used to come through there, Brian Shaw, and man, there were so many dudes that used to come through there right across from the Warriors facility.
Did you? What were you doing back then, if you remember?
I just got done playing with the Raiders, and I stayed in the Bay Area for, I think, 2 or 3 years after I got done playing there before I moved to Southern Cal.
Gotcha. Well, hey, man, you made a great transition. Seriously. We love what you do here, and we appreciate you coming on. We're talking to Bucky Brooks, NFL Network analyst. Let me ask you a question. My partner, Darryl the Guru Johnson, said to me today, why do people want to see Brock Purdy play maybe without some of his weapons? Because Christian McCaffrey may be a game-time decision. And it's true. Like, everybody wants to see something more out of Purdy. Why do you think that is?
I think it's the nature of the beast, particularly in the media. I think everyone loves to poke holes at the success that people have. And whether it's someone being perceived as a system quarterback or a franchise quarterback, there's always a level of doubt that descends on the position. For Brock Purdy, because so many people missed on him, he's a 7th round pick, he's Mr. Irrelevant, there are a lot of people that are waiting for the Cinderella story to end. The clock is striking midnight, the other shoe to drop, and he's going to go back to being what many thought they were. And a lot of times what happens is you have people who are married to their draft grades or their draft evaluations and opinions, and they cannot give people kind of like their flowers for being what he's been. I'll say this, though, because for the people that talk about, like, hey, anybody could do that, we've seen other people in that position not do it. We saw Jimmy Garoppolo. We've seen Trey Lance. We've seen Nick Mullins, not necessarily with this staff, C.J. Beathard. We've seen a bunch of quarterbacks in San Francisco not have this level of success. At some point, you got to give the player some credit for the way that the offense operates when he's on the field.
Bucky, sports in life is amazing. I know how good or knew how good McCaffrey was, but he was an afterthought in Carolina, and everything kind of deteriorated him around him. He was injured, and then he comes and takes over the world, and he looks so smooth in this offense. My question to you is, Kyle Shanahan doesn't seem concerned about his usage. And I know injuries happen on any given play, and he was kind of asked about it, and he kind of scoffed, and I'm paraphrasing, he's just worried about the week ahead. Is that a good thing by Kyle? And I know you, a former player, like I'm thinking, could you overuse him? Do you think about tomorrow a little bit, maybe sit him Monday if he's iffy?
I think what you do when it comes to a player like McCaffrey, because I'll be honest, McCaffrey is kind of the straw that stirs the drink on their offense. His ability to run it and catch it out the backfield, align at a bunch of different spots, has kind of turned a good offense into a great one because you don't know how to match up with him. Love Deebo Samuel, love George Kittle, love Ayuk, but CMC is the one that you have to focus on. What he wants to do is maximize his ability to create chaos and conundrums for defenses by having McCaffrey all over the place. And so when we talk about, like, maybe minimizing or reducing some of his utilization, like, yeah, they can do some things within game to kind of keep him on a pitch count. Like, hey, let's make sure we don't get him more than 20 touches. But sometimes, I mean, I'll be honest with you, like, he has it going, and it's so fun to watch that as a play caller. It's hard to dial it back when your guy has it humming. I think what you'll see, though, down the stretch, they'll try and steal sometimes so he can be fresh going into the postseason. They'll do some things on the practice field to kind of save his legs. But, man, you want your good players to play. And so if you're the Niners and you're chasing the number one seed, you kind of go with it until the wheels fall off.
Bucky Brooks joining us on 95.7 The Game. He's an NFL Network analyst, former NFL defensive back. Let me throw this one at you. And I'm not saying it's going to be the rule rather than the exception, but, I'm looking at the quarterbacks from a couple years ago who drafted early, Justin Fields, Lawrence, Lance, Wilson, Mac Jones. And then I'm looking at Brock Purdy, and I'm realizing that the salary advantage that the Niners have because they're paying him less than a rookie, first-round rookie, like it gives them an unbelievable advantage. Maybe the advantage that they have to get as many great players around him. I know it happened; they stumbled on it, but could that be something that teams look at a little bit more? Finding guys like that?
Yeah, it's something that has been talked about. Like Jared York and those guys talked about when everyone was beginning to give them a hard time. You know, they took on Sam Darnold. Trey Lance wasn't working out. They had Brock Purdy, but they were saying, like, we only had like $20 million committed at the position. Without doing that, we wouldn't have the ability to get a Javon Hargrave, or we wouldn't be able to bring over a Christian McCaffrey because the money at the quarterback position is significantly less than what other teams are spending. And as you think about that model, what it really requires is team decision makers to be disciplined enough to truly evaluate what a quarterback is and not get caught up in the emotions when making decisions when to extend it. The trick for the Niners will be, how much do you value Brock Purdy as a big-time franchise quarterback, and are you willing to pay him $55 to $60 million if he continues to play like he's playing, or do you see him as someone who's a cog within the wheel, and we will find somebody else that can do what he does, because having a cheap quarterback allows us to have all the star talent that we have. Because when you look at the Niners, and I had this conversation the other day, they have the best left tackle in football. They may have the best running back in football. They got the best tight end in football. They got the best linebacker in football in Fred Warner. Like, they have a lot of number ones. They wouldn't be able to afford all those number ones if they're paying the quarterback number one money as well.
No, good point, Bucky. Let me ask you this, because I know the NFL and numbers are nuanced when it comes to pro sports, but when you talk about this stout Niner defense, Warner and Greenlaw have popped on my TV every weekend. Greenlaw obviously didn't play last week in Cleveland, but when it was announced Hargrave was coming, Bucky, I was like, oh my gosh, Jerome Brown, Reggie White, him and Bosa are going to be. But they haven't wrecked shop like I thought they were going to wreck shop early on. Is that just me, or can you share with us what you've seen from Bosa, who has 2.5 sacks on the year?
Yeah, the tough thing about defensive lines, you can't judge everything based on sack totals. You have to look at, like, pressure rate, quarterback hurries, and those things. Because a lot of things that you have to deal with the Niners, you got to get the ball out your hands. Because if you don't, Nick Bosa and Javon Hargrave and those guys will get home and they'll knock you around. So people will use counter tactics to avoid some of the harassment that those guys can pose. When you look at the other guys around them, though, you look at how Greenlaw and Warner are playing, you look at how the secondary is playing, all of it works together. This is a much more aggressive unit under Steve Wilks. He's found a way, because remember now, under D'Amico Ryans, they play more zone. They're playing more man-to-man now, so they're tighter with their coverage. And so you look at some of the other numbers suggest that the defense is playing well, and a lot of it is due to the way that the D-line is playing.
Bucky Brooks joining us on 95.7 The Game, NFL Network analyst. How much you know about Kyle's somewhat infatuation with Kirk Cousins?
I mean, he's had success with him. You go all the way back to when they were in Washington. He was a fourth-round pick. He was picked behind RG3, had a lot of success in Washington when he got his opportunity. He is kind of what I call what Kyle Shanahan likes at the position. He wants a joystick. Kyle is the adolescent teenage gamer that's playing up in the room, but he just needs a quarterback to kind of make his visions come to life. And so that's what Kirk Cousins does. Kirk Cousins is on the field, but Kyle is running the game through him. And Kirk Cousins has had a lot of success doing that for other Shanahan, McVay disciples. So I can see where there would be this fascination. The thing would be, are you willing to pay Kirk Cousins the kind of money that he would command when it comes to it? Because now that the rate is over $50 million, you really have to make those decisions wisely, because that not only occupies a lot of your salary cap pie, but you have to think about what you're missing out on if you make that kind of commitment to the quarterback. And when you pay the quarterback that kind of money, can that quarterback function with less? Because if he can't function with less, why are we paying him that? You might as well pay the money elsewhere and have a quarterback that functions well with a better supporting cast.
Okay, I can't wait to get your answer on this one. I'm a father of three teenagers, and I know the power of social media in their life, and I try to restrict it and fight it, and I take L's every other day. But I know these athletes now, they'll use a post to kind of communicate and let you know what's on their mind, you know, whether it's on the field, off the court, or whatnot. And I'm looking at the game Sunday, and I know Deebo Samuel's a tough SOB. The Niners are a tough unit, but they got into it. They wanted to smoke before the Cleveland game. And then, Bucky, when the dust settled, 2 of the 3 couldn't finish the game. And I'm just saying to myself, because I'm not in the fraternity, okay, y'all was doing all that, but you kind of didn't back it up. When you saw that, do you think that the shenanigans before the game, and I know these are the pros, do you think that helped Cleveland beat the Niners, or that had nothing to do with nothing?
So here's what I probably can tell you. Like, if they were ready to go, kind of like F around and find out in pregame, that means that their coaching staff had gassed them up all week. Jim Schwartz and company had got this team ready to play. Because I'm sure they talked about, like, look, the Niners are viewed as the bully. When I talk to teams around the league, when you practice against the Niners, they operate at a different level, more physical, more tough. The hustle is different. So all week the Browns coaches said, you got to be ready to bully the bully. And so I'm sure when Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel did whatever they did where they felt like it was a violation, they were ready. And so what the Niners encountered was a team that was using them as a measuring stick, and they had to get ready for that energy. And I'm going to say this, like, the Browns are loaded. They are a talented team. They just needed that edginess. And so they found a way to bring that edginess. But it's going to be like that when you have top teams. You have to view the Niners as what they are. They are the heavyweight contender. They're the bully. They're the knockout artist. They're Deontay Wilder when he was in his heyday. And so everyone is going to give them that energy. We saw how they punked the Dallas Cowboys. That's part of their MO. And so you're going to have some of those things. And I can guarantee you, when they play the Philadelphia Eagles, I bet you that's testy in pregame. Yeah. That's how it's going to be, because those teams are at the top, and the Detroit Lions are another team. Those teams that are at the top, that's how they play. They push it to the line, and they're like, look, this is how we play. We'll see if you're tough enough to kind of weather the storm when we hit you with these body blows.
Hey, Bucky, thank you so much for joining us, man, and give us some of your time. Really appreciate
Bucky
it, man.
Buckets, Steiny. That's what we call it.
Oh, nice.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. That's Bucky Brooks, NFL Network analyst, former NFL defensive back, host of Move the Sticks podcast along with Daniel Jeremiah.